Welcome to the Soul Spiral podcast. Conversations to allow your soul to up-level, grow, and expand your consciousness while having fun along the way. I'm your host, Kristin Edwards. So today I have someone very special here with me, my partner in life, fun, and everything in between, perhaps, Alex Tyson. Welcome, Alex.
G'day. How you going?
It almost feels weird calling you Alex sometimes because we just call each other other names. So my beautiful partner Alex is here with me. He is very much a health enthusiast like myself and runs a very successful health and wellness business called iHealth Saunas, which he also has his own podcast. So if you want to check him out over at Sweat It Out after you enjoyed the conversation, you're welcome to as well. But today is a little bit... I haven't got a full plan yet, but...
It's a bit out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
It's not the usual day.
It's not the usual day in our life even as well. And that's part of the reason why it felt in alignment to start a conversation. So Alex and I are in the process of beginning a 21-day water-only fast. Whoop. We are currently on day one. This could be a little bit ambitious. It could be a little bit ambitious to be doing this right now.
In 2 hours' time, we're going to be like, oh, I've got nothing left. Why did we do that?
But
it feels good now, though.
Yeah, it does feel good
I'm
now.
glad we're sitting and doing this.
Sitting and sipping.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to compare notes whenever we record the one after.
Yeah.
22 days' time.
Yeah, maybe not 22. But
maybe in a month's time.
The thought is that let's do a podcast before and after. And perhaps we can reflect a little bit on our experience of fasting previously. So this is not our first rodeo doing an extended water fast. So I actually wanted to open up a question to you. Because obviously last time we water fasted, we did 30 days with Loren Lockman at Tanglewood Wellness Fasting Centre.
Tanglewood Wellness Centre.
Tanglewood Wellness Centre.
Close enough.
I thought he had fasting in the name.
Yeah. In Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica. And that was at the beginning of 2020. And it's also interesting to navigate that we're going into this fast with... different things happening in the climate at the same time, just as there was at the beginning of 2020.
As in Melbourne going into lockdown just as when we got back.
Yeah. They're experiencing something similar at the moment. So it's very interesting to notice that happening at the same time. You know, is anything ever a coincidence? Who knows? But the question I wanted to pose to you, Alex, is what is going to be different about the way that you approach this fast versus the way that you approached last fast, if anything?
Yeah. Well, there's a few angles.
Yeah.
Physically, I'll be doing some things differently.
Yep.
But mentally is also a very different approach. I think if I think back to 30 days last time, I'd fasted 9 days on water prior to that by myself. I'd done, 30 or 40 accumulative days on juice fasting. But really, none of that stands up to doing 30 days properly. And so I think my mindset, I know my mindset last time was like, book it in, get there, and put myself in the position and it'll happen. But I didn't know what I was in for, really.
Yeah.
And I say I mean we. We went together.
We did do it together last time.
Yeah. But my mental focus was just to get there and to to see what happened. And I didn't know what I was in for. I didn't know what to expect. And yeah, that was actually, some of the most challenging days for me were on those first 3 days.
Yeah.
As you kind of slow down to the pace of nature and you just realize like,
What you've done.
yeah, I just remember, I think I said to you, like, we've got 27 more days of this.
Yeah. And I looked at you and I said, what do you mean? This is your idea. Like, why are you acting crazy?
Yeah. And so I think that was a challenge, but I just didn't know what we were in for. And so it was really taking it day by day.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of letting go happening.
Yeah.
You just have to relinquish to the process.
Yeah. And so just to give some context in case people don't know exactly why we did or are doing this, what was your why last time that you fasted? Like, what was the reason that you wanted to do a fast?
Look, I think there's a couple answers to that in itself. From a physical standpoint, I had gastrointestinal issues.
Yeah.
I always had gastrointestinal issues. I never realized how many issues I had until after fasting.
Yeah.
When they went away. But yeah, so I was always gassy, embarrassingly gassy, and always had discomfort with digestion and those sort of things. But also from the moment that I learned about water fasting from Tyler Tolman all those years ago, it just connected with something in my being like nothing ever had before. And I all of a sudden saw water fasting and understood it to be a way to experience the highest level of health possible.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the highest level of health possible was, but I knew at the time I wasn't experiencing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just felt this draw to want to fast. I just felt like it was just the answer to so many of life's big questions. And that fascinated me.
Yeah.
So there was the physical, but there was also just that I really wanted to, I don't know, I guess in life I want to experience the essence of things, and some would say maybe the extremes. And to me, fasting was the most purest, cleanest way to experience what life has to offer and to heal as well. And so I was just drawn in.
Yeah.
And up until that point, I dabbled a little bit, and then it was like, okay, I'm going. I'm doing 30 days. Like I just want to know what this is about.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I guess those are the.
And I definitely witnessed you through all of those years, and I obviously came, to Tyler Tolman around the same time that you did, and was very intrigued by fasting. I obviously at the beginning was not so intrigued by water fasting. I had a lot of barriers and resistance there. And I used to remember you talking about water fasting and watching videos on water fasting, how to water fast and why. And I was like, I was very content with my juice fasting. I was very content. I loved juice fasting.
You're good at it too.
I was really good at juice fasting. And I think I did 25 days 4 days on water and then 21 days on juice at one point in time. So I'd done like extended juice fasting before because of my own health issues being more hormonal and acne related, and fatigue stuff as well. And even just things that I'd had as a child, like kind of maybe coming through in different ways. But yeah, I remember when you went and did your water fast by yourself. And I did a juice fast whilst you were doing that, actually.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was totally juice fasting because I was at work and I was juice fasting. I used to juice fast at work like regularly through the different jobs I'd had, even in corporate, and then when I worked at the Crystal Wholesaler.
That's what I mean. You were good at that. I struggled working in juice fasting.
Oh, there were days that I had struggle. Like at every single workplace I've worked at, I've definitely juice fasted whilst I've been working there. And it's been different experiences depending on what's going on. But I could usually get by with it. But I also didn't want to tell people that I was fasting often because I would worry that they would think that I wouldn't be capable. And so I was probably pushing myself through those experiences. But yeah, I remember you being on your water fast, and I was like on my juice fast, and you came back, and even though perhaps you didn't do it in the most optimal way, now that we know more, you just looked like sun in a being. I remember you coming back, and I was like, wow, you were just glowing. Like there was just an energy about you, like a vitality. And obviously you didn't give up on the one that you did that, you wanted to go for longer, but you couldn't really sustain it because perhaps of the way that you were approaching it.
I was making mistakes.
Yeah, making mistakes.
Learnings.
And so obviously fast forward a couple years on, you're still having digestive issues, you're still very keen on going water fasting, and you're talking about it regularly. And I wasn't ever sure that I would do that, because I used to always say, no, I could do juice fast. There's no way I'm going to water fast. But for me, like I really got to that like point of like, it felt like rock bottom for me in a sense, especially when you have like a small improvement in one area. Like I had improvement in my face, but then when that improvement was at the cost of my body pushing that acne out in a different way, to the point that it was all on my back and so painful, and it was hard to wear clothes. And I just felt like I had done everything. Like we'd been juice fasting, we'd been eating plant-based whole foods, I'd been eating raw tofu, I'd been like minimizing saturated fats, I'd done like so much emotional work. And every time that I would do those things, like little fragments of it would improve, but it would never get to the point of like healed. And when it came out in my back, I just knew my body was saying to me, Kristin, you're not listening to me. Like there's something that I'm trying to like get out here, and you're not giving me the capacity to do that with the way that you're living right now. And so I don't know how long, like that was my back started inflaming in August last year. August 2019.
I think it was before that.
Yeah, like between in the middle of the year.
Your back had acne on it for months prior to us deciding to go on fast.
We decided to go fast in September. Yeah. In September 2019. So I reckon
it was the start of that year that it was coming up.
Yeah, like because I was doing stuff on my skin with like corneotherapists who have been amazing and beautiful and taught me so many things about caring for my skin in new ways. But I was always like, felt drawn to doing things in a natural way, let's say. And maybe we can consider, water fasting one of the most natural ways that you can heal, because you really let your body have the chance to do its thing. But yeah, then throughout that 2019, my back just got worse and worse. And pretty much when you asked me, like, do you remember the moment you asked me?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you always say that I'm dramatic, but I should say dramatic. And I actually am dramatic sometimes. And
theatrical is probably a more accurate word.
I know I have those moments in my life, and I can recall 3 of them right now. The moment when I told my parents I was leaving uni, the moment when I told my dad that if he didn't step down from working in the business, I was going to leave.
Yeah.
And another one of those moments is when I asked you to water fast. And I know it's like this is not critically, but this is important to me.
Yeah.
And it has weight.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of the weight in those moments.
Yeah.
And so I just knew I needed to get you and say, hey, Kristin. And I took you into the room and sat down. I don't know what you thought I was going to say.
You were like, I need to talk to you about something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, when someone says those words to you, like we're programmed to like think, is this a negative thing?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I sat you down and I said, I'm going to fast for 30 days with Loren Lockman in Costa Rica, and I want you to come with me. And I don't think I said anything for a while.
I don't think I said anything for a while either.
And then you kind of processed it, and in the moment, it was definitely not didn't seem like a fuck yes. Like you were thinking about it a lot, and
I had a lot of resistance.
there was a lot of resistance.
And I could feel what I was experiencing in that moment was resistance. And so even though it wasn't a fuck yes at that point in time, I could tell that it, you know, there was some part of me that was like, it wasn't a no, you know, and if it's not a no, then what is it behind there that I'm resisting? And I could feel, you could, it was like you were saying the energy was like palpable at that time. Like I could feel my energy palpably, like I could just feel it, like all this stuff come up that like I'd suppressed in a way.
Yeah.
And
you had to go and work through, you had to, you know, do what you felt you needed to do, talk to your bosses, whatever else it was at the time. And and all of that stuff just was so easy.
Yeah, I had no resistance externally.
Exactly. So it was
even
only
asking to take 8 weeks off work or whatever it was when I was working at the time. And there was no resistance externally. It was just like, yeah, okay. I was like, wow, okay, the resistance is all within me. And I could notice that and know that if that's the case, if the resistance is all within me, this is probably something I need to do. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I said yes. And I think it's hilarious that you mentioned, like, you know, in those first few days of fasting last time, like you had those moments, you're like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like, we've got so many more days left. And I remember thinking like, what? Because I'd already come to terms with it. Like I'd already accepted that I wasn't going to eat for 30 days. But I don't know if you fully accepted until we were there, like in the process.
Yeah, I think so.
And then your resistance came up and went,
it was too late then.
Yeah, exactly.
I think in life, oftentimes I just know I need to put myself in this situation and I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Even any time that it comes to me being out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I know I just need to put myself in that position.
Yeah.
And then I'll handle it.
Yeah, I resonate with that too.
Yeah. And so I think it was just a bit of that going on. And I hadn't fully understood what 30 days on water meant. And then on day 3, I was kind of like, oh, okay. This is what it means.
And why do you think you had that on day 3? Like, what was it that was coming up for you in that moment, really?
I'm not sure. The way I describe it is just slowing down to the pace of the fast and kind of like dropping into the fast and realizing that there's no hiding. And I had a lot of detoxing to do and I wasn't feeling great and I was starting to feel worse, I guess.
Yeah.
Over those first few days and just kind of coming to terms with it all. Like, oh, this is my life for the next month. And, you know, I think a lot of that was also subconsciously too. I couldn't consciously put a finger on why I was feeling that way and why it seemed like such a big mission, but it was all just kind of coming up, and that's why I felt the way I did in those first few days, I think.
Do you think it was like the mental side of things, like really coming into play of like, oh my, like where your mind starts to go to distract you from anything you're actually like truly feeling deep down? It's like, let me like focus on this thing. Oh, what am I doing here? What am I doing there? Why is that happening? And then like getting like that kind of, did you have that craziness in your mind? Because I know I had that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, whether that's probably just a bigger conversation in general, whether that was on day 3, probably, you know, but yeah, I mean, your mind is, you realize when you fast correctly that there's no distractions.
Yeah.
And so whatever's coming up is coming up. You know, we're on day 1, right? I mean, there's days when I haven't eaten by this time anyway, right? But an hour ago, after sitting in that chair for 2 hours, sipping water, I was actually feeling really great. But then I just had this negative thought come into my head, and then I was like, "Oh my God, here we go! Oh no!" You know, and it's just that's just part of the journey. And this time, you know, coming back to that question at the start, this time I understand that may happen.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that feels like there's a level of much more trust with both of us in the process.
Yeah. And I think, I'm conscious that it might be sounding a bit esoteric to people. So I guess
that's what we're here for.
But I guess to put a bit more context around, and it's something that I'd like to explore, but to put a bit more context around what do we mean by like there's no distractions? I think it's important to clarify like what I mean by that is there's nothing taking our attention away. So fasting correctly, yes, we're sustaining from food, but we're also sustaining from
abstaining.
Yes, thank you. We're also abstaining from our phones and everything that entails, which is social media, text messages, WhatsApp messages, whatever your flavor is, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. I mean, we're abstaining from that, which we've programmed ourselves to go to when we want to feel a certain way now. So taking that out of our life is a big deal, especially for people our age in their 20s and 30s. So that's gone. We're not reading much when we're fasting, right? So we can't even go and lose ourselves in a book. Why do we want to lose ourselves in a book? Because we're not happy with the current moment.
Yeah.
Where there's suffering that we don't want to just sit in. Life is suffering.
Most people struggle so hard to just like even be still, like, and not be like doing something, even like purposely trying to meditate or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. We're not. I mean, we're fasting at home now. We're not cleaning the house. We're not going to be cleaning the house every single day.
No.
Yeah, we'll meditate at nighttime.
Yeah.
And but during the daytime, it's quite literally sitting or lying in bed.
Yep.
Sipping water, and sometimes your eyes are open and you admire nature, and sometimes your eyes are closed and you just in your own mind observing your thoughts for a month.
Yeah. And why is that so important now?
Because any energy that we use to do things or to engage with things takes away energy from our body to cleanse and heal. Yeah. And so it's complete rest. Arnold Ehret says that when we're fasting, I always get this quote wrong. We're on nature's operating table. Yeah. So if you think about a fast like that, like you're on an operating table in a theater having work done, you're not on your phone when you're getting surgery. You're not going for a walk whilst you're half cut open. Yeah. The body heals itself. And
body is a self-healing organism.
That's right. And so we treat a fast as if we're on an operating table. Yeah. We need to rest to get the most out of it. Yeah. And to have the most profound physical and emotional experiences. So I think that was all kind of coming to terms in my head in those early days of our first fast last year, realizing that I'm not going to be doing much. Yeah. And that was quite confronting for me at the time.
And so to reflect on our previous fast, did you heal all of your digestive issues that you had and you didn't know that you had?
I healed a lot of them. Yeah. So I don't really have bloating anymore. I didn't realize how constipated I was. Yeah. Until now. I mean, my bowel movements are a dream now. Go to the toilet, squat on the toilet, not sitting on it, squatting on it, and it falls out. Like it feels like that. And then it's like one wipe. Occasionally it's two. And I can see what it is. Oh, that's the papaya from yesterday. Or oh, that's my salad from the night before last. And I'm done. And I'm out of the toilet in sometimes less than 60 seconds. Also known as what it's supposed to be like. But for me, that I didn't know that was possible. Yeah. I still have a little bit of gas every now and then. However, that's because I know I still have some old hard material to get rid of. And so the fruits are combining with that sometimes. But also, they don't smell anymore. I used to be gassy after every meal, and they stunk.
Yeah.
Because there was shit inside me that was rotting. You know, if your farts smell like something died inside of you, that's because something dead is inside of you. And so they don't, when I do have a little bit of gas, they don't smell, which is also a real treat for me. So,
and for me too.
yes, probably more for you than me. So that was huge for me. To have a gastrointestinal system that's actually properly functioning. I'd never had that before. You know, for me, going to the toilet once a day was like, great. I go poo once, excellent. It was always hard and it was always forceful. And I thought I was hydrated. And I thought I was eating pretty well. But there's levels, as we know. So those were the biggest physical things that were healed out of the fast.
Yeah. And obviously as I mentioned, had all these skin and hormonal issues. And like you say, I know I've healed, let's say like 99% of that experience. Sometime like my skin is like fully clear on all parts of my body.
Your skin's amazing. I mean, I still marvel at being able to, I just get enjoyment out of like scratching your back.
Yeah. And before it was like, I couldn't even be like touched.
I mean, you could barely wear a bra at one point
Yeah.
because you had these giant welts of pus on your back. It was horrible.
Really painting a beautiful picture, but
well, it wasn't beautiful. It was horrible.
It was
like no one should need to go through something like that.
Yeah, and I'm also so thankful that my body knew how to express that it was detoxing, and it was very obvious to me that there was stuff that I needed to heal. And I feel very thankful that my body displays that in such an obvious way. You can probably hear our glasses clinking a bit as we're sipping our water.
It's just ticked over the hour.
We're pouring a new glass for Al. I'm a bit behind actually. And so for me, yeah, I do still sometimes, if I eat heavier things, if I eat too much fat, I can sometimes get a little spot come up, but it's gone within a day, which is awesome. But it does tell me that there's probably still a little bit more healing that could occur. And even my I mean, I'd never really had I didn't have any obvious issues with my toilet time. But yeah, I can definitely still see the improvement, and I could see that there's still a possibility for improvement. So that leads to my question as to if you've healed most of your digestive issues, like why the heck are you doing another 21-day water fast?
Well, I could get really excited answering this question, but it's as simple as this, I guess. The physical benefits of fasting are really just like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Because, and this is just through my experience, but through fasting correctly, I had a greater sense of connectedness with my being and with who I am and my spirit than I'd ever felt ever in my life.
Wow.
Unequivocally. I felt like I understood my purpose more, which as a male is really important. I felt like I just knew who I was. You know, I can hear some like Zen meditation practitioners being like, but you are nobody. But aside from that, I just felt really connected to me as a person. And I felt like I'd healed a lot of emotional trauma sitting on top of what is that ball of love and light that sits inside all of us.
Yep.
And so fasting again is just about deepening that connection further. and it just feels like part of the process now. Like last time we fasted, it was that massive life-changing event, like one of those moments where the trajectory of your life after that is just forever in a new, higher, better, positive direction.
Yeah.
Whereas this time, part of me thinks it may not be as profound. It may not be as like life altering, because I know that I'm so much like I'm on my trajectory and my focus and I'm on my path now, and fasting helped me get there. Now it's just continuing on that journey, and I know that there's always more healing to do. And so to me, it's like, well, of course I'm going to fast again. I still know that there's higher levels to experience of health and vitality and wellness, whatever you call it. And I want to experience those. So yeah, that's why for me, it's just a kind of a no-brainer, really. Yeah.
And what's your intention this fast? Do you remember what your intention was last fast?
No. Oh, yes, I do actually. It was to rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was to experience complete rest my body and my mind. This time it's presence. Now I shared that. It's being present, and I remember last time we fasted, one of the ways that the mind seemed to want to distract itself was thinking about all the things I'm going to do when I finish fasting, and going back through all the amazing things I'd experienced in my life up until that point.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll do that again this time because it's really enjoyable and fun and exciting. However, I'm not going to like push for those moments. If they come up, they come up. For me, it's just around being present as possible, enjoying that there's a guy mowing the lawns outside and it's really loud.
Yeah, the gardener came this morning and I thought he was done, but he's come back with the leaf blower. So
that's all right. I don't think they'll be coming through the mic very much.
Yeah, no, it'll be okay.
But it's just being present in the moment, and in those challenging moments, feeling into those and just being there, and not even trying as hard to figure out why am I feeling this bad, or how can I shift, what's my emotion, what's the belief, like, because that stuff will happen. Like I know that'll naturally come up, and
it'll
I'll
be
work
more
through
effortless though, it feels like.
Yeah.
And
so now it's just going to be like, I'm feeling that way. Okay. I'm just going to feel that.
Yeah, I feel like last time even I was like trying to force the trauma out of my body.
We both were.
Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, I'm feeling where's the resistance? But like now it feels like more like I was saying, it's almost like a more of a trust. And you and I have been like talking as well, like, 21 days, that's easy because we did 30 days last time and that's like almost 10 days less. And for us, I feel like that's definitely making it. If we were going to do like a longer fast now, I think we'd be feeling a lot different.
Yeah. I think you're right. And again, but there's that knowingness of we know what we're in for.
Yeah. To a degree, who really knows?
Yeah, that's right. But there is that experience there, which is really nice.
Yeah.
We know to take it easy right from day one.
Yeah.
We've been sitting in the chair for the last 2 hours.
Yeah.
And we know that after a week or around that 10-day mark, we're going to fall into that lower, kind of deeper level of cleansing.
Yeah. Can you explain what actually happens there?
Well, my teaching is that, or what I've been taught is that around day 10, day 11, we go into a deeper state of ketosis.
After hitting the first stage of ketosis around 3 days, is it?
Oh, I mean, it can be as quick as, 24 to 48 hours. Yeah. Everyone's different. It depends what's in the colon.
Yeah.
It depends. It even depends on what you ate for your last meal.
Yeah.
But typically 24, 48, 72 hours, you're into ketosis well and truly, which is where the body burns fat for fuel instead of glucose. And then around day 10, it goes into a deeper state again. And I certainly felt that last time.
Yeah.
It was actually day 11 when I remember just feeling like there's something extra going on now. And so, yeah, like we're aware of those kind of moments during the fast. And I think just knowing that there's going to be days when we feel really bad and, like it's hard, just knowing that is really, it's just kind of helpful.
Yeah.
An
And acceptance.
Yeah, whereas
Already.
last time I was like, I don't have a clue what's going to happen tomorrow,
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to wake up feeling like tomorrow. Can I do this? Like those sorts of thoughts come through. But also there was an ease that we experienced last time as well. Like
Absolutely. And I think after the first couple of days, you fall in, you drop into the pace of the fast.
Yeah.
And it does become easier to sit around for 9 hours a day and do nothing.
Yeah. I also feel like obviously we went over the other side of the world to go to that fast, and day one of our fast there, we were day one at Tanglewood and everything was new and everything was foreign, and there was like a property to explore and there were other people there that we didn't know. And so I feel like the drop in is happening much quicker for us this time because we're already like comfortable in our space rather than trying to adjust to that first as well. Then that, but it was also really, I mean, it was necessary for us to remove ourselves from our life to do that, especially the first time. But this time it really feels like, I mean, we're very blessed to have a beautiful home to do this within. And we do have support if we need it from friends and family. So yeah, we're still equipped in that way. But yeah, I think it definitely the drop-in's happening quicker for me because I already feel ease at home. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, definitely. Again, but for most people, they feel like they need to go somewhere to do their first fast. And, to some degree, I agree. I mean, that's exactly what we did. And I think it's important because it's easy to make mistakes otherwise.
Yeah.
It's easy to get distracted. It's easy to spend all day on Netflix. It's easy to want to go for a walk, drive to the shops. I don't know. It's just easy to do stuff when you're at home.
Yeah, and it depends on who you live with as well.
Exactly.
It's just us at the moment. So
yeah. Whereas when you go somewhere like a proper fasting facility, you're looked after, and yeah, it just makes it for a better experience, and you can learn how to do it properly. So then you can go back home and do it right, instead of making mistakes. Lots of people always feel like they want to exercise, or maybe they want to cook for others, or they want to use all this energy. I certainly did that when I fasted by myself for the first time. I hiked a freaking mountain and I went to the beach every second day and bathed in the sun as long as I could. And
now we know that those maybe aren't the most optimal choices, just because, just to be a little bit technical, we want to retain as much of our electrolytes as possible, considering we're not eating and replacing those easily. So anytime you're sweating or expending too much energy, you can lose electrolytes. And obviously, if you're not replacing those through the fast, then that can be very detrimental to your health.
Yeah, when people's sodium levels drop, that's when issues tend to arise with regard to fasting, extended fasting.
Yeah, and that's why doing nothing is also so important.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you want to know my intention?
Go for it.
So mine is always long-winded than yours. I remember my intention last time was clarity, flow, and I might have had a third one. It might have just been heal. There's definitely clarity and flow were in there. I could probably check in my journal because I wrote it in the front of my journal. This time around, I really want to cultivate that deep listening and clear pathway between hearing my soul and my heart. But I think even in a bigger way, I really want to step into like really opening myself to receiving and letting myself receive. receive, I feel, is a really big one. So maybe it's again clarity, because fasting definitely brings you that.
Mm-hmm.
Receiving and trust, I'm hearing. Trusting myself, trusting my heart, trusting my soul, trusting my body.
Trusting the process.
Like let's take that to another level. And I think that is like even some things have already come up for me today, or even in the last week, in the shadow of this beginning. And I think that trust is really like what would help me come to terms with a couple of those things that has come up. So it'll be really interesting to see where we're at after this when we check in next time.
Yeah.
There was something I was going to. Did you have anything you wanted to mention or ask?
You know, you were talking about intention, and it's really interesting, because when we talk about manifestation, it's all about, you know, setting that intention or thinking about what it is we want to create. But then the important part of manifestation is letting it go. And for me, fasting is an amazing time to do just that.
Yeah.
Manifest, 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 and then start fasting and just let go and just be present.
Yeah.
And know that the universe will give you what you've put out.
Trust and surrender.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You know, fasting for me has always been this beautiful experience where you're honoring the body to the highest level possible, because you're doing something really, really challenging that gives the body the ability to cleanse and heal. And I always find that after fasting, life is well and truly happening for you.
Yeah.
It's just like the universe is saying, here you go.
Yeah. Like last time we both experienced so much alignment afterwards of just, I mean, you especially, really, where things were just falling into place. And, but for both of us.
Oh, definitely for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it changed our lives so significantly.
Yeah.
And that's been the case every time I've fasted.
Yeah. We always talk about this, like your consciousness. We've noticed our consciousness always shifts every time that we fast.
Yeah. And yeah, it just feels like life's really happening for you, which it always is. You know, I guess that's a point of how you perceive the events in your life. But everything just happens really at this kind of warp speed. You know, you come out of a fast, especially a water fast, and it's just like you're strapped onto this rocket of life. Everything's so beautiful and clear and just full of energy. And so for me, it's manifest, fast, and then just be and just enjoy the moments.
Yeah.
And I think fasting too also in some ways forces you to be more present and forces you to see the gift
and deal
in
with
everything.
Yeah.
Because you just, it's so challenging sometimes, and you realize that, you know, everything that happens to us really is actually good, and it's for what's best for us. And I've just found through since doing that water fast, especially, like I just really see everything as a beautiful gift, which it is, even though sometimes it can be really challenging. You know, like Dad going into a home for his Alzheimer's, like that stuff's not easy to deal with. But there's learnings there, and I may not even know them all yet.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a beauty in everything that happens in life, and fasting's helped me see that more clearly.
Yeah. I had the other thought come to my mind. So I also feel like our relationship has changed a lot since previously fasting. And I definitely feel like even, you know, we had our trials and tribulations, but for the most part, we've always had a really beautiful relationship. And I think that any parts that were holding us back of fully being in that alignment with each other really came up to be healed in our last fast. And that's really just flowed into life together afterwards. What do you think is going to come up for us emotionally as a couple doing this together? Or do you think it's going to just be very easeful because we both have such a knowing of who we are and where we are together?
I'm not sure. Something might come up. It might not. You know, I feel like it's going to be a very easeful and loving fast.
Yeah.
But it may not. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But yeah, again in a fasted state, I'm just always tend to be a ball of love.
Yeah.
I remember last fast, and I was like FaceTiming people from back home.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, I just kept telling everyone that I love them.
You're like, I need to call mum and tell her I love her. I need to call
Yeah.
and I was the same as well. Like,
Mm.
and also like for both of us, any parts that were holding us back from being in that state of like love and trust of and gratitude, that we had a lot of emotional stuff come up last time to be healed in that aspect.
Yeah.
And those were big. And I remember, I don't know if you experienced the same, but the day that I really had one of my epiphanies of a belief that I was holding that was preventing me from being truly and receiving love was because you were being such a ball of love to me. How was it for you? What triggered your response when you had your emotional healing come up?
I can't remember what triggered it. I just remember. I remember thinking back through like past girlfriends and like why those relationships ended, and feeling really sorry. I really wanted to apologize to them all.
Yeah.
And I was just like feeling into the hurt of each of those relationships, especially the first couple that were quite more intense. You know, like your first love is always really intense, and I had my heart broken. You know, and I don't know how I got to that point, but I just remember I was lying on the bed and I was thinking about those things and feeling those emotions. And, you know, I was actually speaking to those women as if they were here in my mind, you know, saying what I would want to say to them to help kind of clear any stagnant energy that might still be there. And then I just remember realizing that, like, I was apologizing to these women for what had happened and other women that I'd treated poorly. And then I just had this moment where I was like, I need to forgive myself.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't forgiven myself for all this stuff, you know? And I was just like, oh, shit. And then that just really just got me going. And I just started crying and crying and crying and crying. And all this guilt was coming up. And yeah, there was just self-forgiveness, which I'd never really experienced before. And so I worked through that and forgave myself for those things. And that was really, really kind of beautiful afternoon of tears and emotional release, you know. But I can't remember how I got there. You know, I think that's the nature
It's
of
not important.
the nature of being on a fast. This is like this just stuff just comes up, you know. I always like when you find that you want to reach for something. Why do I want to reach for that thing?
Yeah.
What is about that thing that
And
I
in
want to
that
reach
moment when you had those emotions come up, you had nothing to distract you or even intervene because I was over there having my own experience until like you were at that point of like curled in a ball, like crying, like I waited and then I was like, do you want me to come over there and hold you? And it was like still letting, you know, you have that experience. And I think it was the same way when I had that big breakdown in the middle too. And like I was saying, you were the trigger for my, because you were being such a big ball of love and I remember, like we were saying, we were trying to almost like force the emotional pain out of my body. Like, come up, I'm ready to work with you. Like, I'm guns blaring. And I remember this day you just kept telling me that you loved me and how beautiful I was, and I could feel this like trigger response come up in my being, and I was like, and then I realized I was like, why am I resisting receiving your love in that moment? And then I all of a sudden realized all the times that I've been resisting other people giving me their love. You know, I accept it, but I never truly receive it. And that was because I didn't feel that I was worthy of receiving that. And that was my like thing to be like, oh my gosh. And then I was just sobbing on the bed, and then you came over and you were holding me while I was like, you know, your whole body convulsing, kind of sobbing's going on. And I was on day like 15 at this point, and like you do not have the energy to be like crying that hard, but you are like, you just are, you're crying as hard as your body needs to let it to come through. And then within that, then you can all of a sudden feel like that heaviness that sat in your chest and that heaviness that sat in your heart that I was perceiving as like this, I don't know, like an emptiness or something missing. Like my heart didn't feel like it was its true self. It just shifted away after you let yourself experience that. Did you notice that too yourself?
I don't think I noticed that exact thing, but it was a different thing going on for me.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there was a lack of heaviness over
Yeah.
my being after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's all the clarity that we get when in a state like that, which is why I love fasting.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to that place.
Yeah.
Through other means.
Definitely.
And I think when you do, it's perhaps more forceful and just not as natural.
And I think that's also why so many cultures and religions actually have fasting as part of their like their spiritual practice. Like you're saying, it is very much a spiritual experience. It is mind, body, heart, soul, spirit.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. I have one more thing to ask before perhaps we wrap it up. And I don't think you're going to expect what I'm going to, but you know,
I'm sitting down.
You and I have been, and I'm not.
Now I know where this is going.
You know, this is going.
Yeah.
And I just want to be open about
Cool.
it. You know, Alex and I have been, you know, talking about if and when we decide to bring children into this earth plane together, that we want to do that as consciously as we possibly can. And one of the aspects of this fast is that we want to really get ourselves both into a state of like, first of all, the most prominent optimal physical health that we can before we do that, so that we're not passing anything on we don't need to our children. And also,
and so they have a good environment
inside
of you to grow.
Yeah. And also so that, you know, your seed is that's coming from that place as well, because the more that we can bring that consciousness in when we do decide to take that step, that we are the cleanest and healthiest versions of ourselves there. What do you think, what other aspects of yourself do you want to be presenting in your conscious conception? Like, what are the things, because I remember we spoke about this maybe like 6 to 8 months ago, and we both kind of explored how we wanted to be able to consciously conceive, like who we would want to be at the time of conception, because whoever we are at that time is what we're sending through to the child that we're bringing through. What other things do you, obviously besides a clean, healthy physical body, what other aspects of yourself do you want to be presenting? And let me know if you already feel like you are presenting those things.
There's lots of things I'm presenting that I am happy with, content with. I think one area that I am focusing on at the moment is around like my masculine divine masculine energy and also the sexual energy around that as well. Because I just feel like there's room for development there. So that's something that I'm really conscious of at the moment. And kind of actively working on.
Yeah, I'm wanting to continue the pathway on.
Yeah, wanting to develop further.
Yeah.
I guess Tony Robbins looks at life like that. Like there's just all these different areas of your life that you can work on. And to me, that's one area that I'm working on at the moment. So there's that. And I'm always just wanting to be more present and able to really have a good voice and a good ability to express my emotions and feelings and thoughts. And that's something that I'm also actively kind of working on and aware that needs work. But I mean, look, there's always going to be areas of our lives that need work, right?
Yeah.
But those are two things that I'm kind of working on at the moment, which I'd like to be able to pass on energetically. Yeah. How about you?
There's definitely some aspects that I'm still always developing to become better in a way. One of the aspects is obviously my health and even like movement in my body and feeling the best. I want to unpack also any limiting beliefs that maybe are to do with my body that I still perhaps hold in some ways. I don't want to, especially like no matter what gender our child is, I just really don't want to be passing on any limiting beliefs around the body not being a beautiful, amazing vessel, no matter what it looks like. I also want my like rituals and sacred practice to be part of my daily, like so integrated that it's just part of my daily, that gets passed on of like how important that is. And I feel like, again, like there's definitely, let's say I'm like at 89% on that. There's still that 11% that sometimes, shifts, or I let myself get distracted, or maybe don't prioritize those things. There was something else and I just lost it. It just floated away from my head. I just want to be a good human. I want to, show love, gratitude in my daily life. And I feel that you and I do definitely very much embody this, and that's part of our integrated daily practice. But there's always more love that we can bring in. And maybe that's very dreamy of me to say, but how can I be in such a state of love that no matter what is happening, like I can see it, like you said before, as a gift?
Yeah, it's bringing more of that Christ consciousness in.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Or whatever ascended master that teaches on love that you connect with. We connect with some of the messages of Jesus because he talks a lot about unconditional love. Not that we, either of us, follow a Christian faith.
No.
But we can see the beauty in the love that his teachings bring. So yeah, and I think that fasting allows us to go there into a deeper state of love, like you said. That little love ball.
Yeah.
Yay.
It's inside all of us. It's just coded in traumas.
Yeah.
Physical and emotional traumas.
Yeah, it's like the layers of the onion, and you know how people often say you're peeling off the layers of the onion. One of my teachers used to say, just blow up the onion. But also, if you blow up the onion, like, is there anything left?
What does that even mean?
Like, stop peeling
I'm
all the
sick
layers
of dealing
back.
with the onion.
Yeah, and I think
Let's
that
suppress all of your problems.
But also, when you heal what you're ready to heal at the time. Like, you only can meet yourself fully where you're at. And so if something's coming up to be healed, it actually means you're ready to heal that thing. And so whether that's emotionally or physically.
Mm.
And I just think there's so much power in understanding that and knowing that we can heal ourselves and our body can heal itself if we give it the time and space to do so.
Mm.
And what happens at the end is like a beautiful, connected, whole, embodied being.
Mm. Mm. I love that. And at the end of a fast, we also get to eat some beautiful fruits.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be really, really wonderful. I think that's us today.
I think that's a good day one podcast
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful to reflect on all these things
Yeah,
with
it's really
you
nice.
and to also have this check-in for our own experience and memories as well. So thank you for listening.
Mm.
Thank you for being here with me, Alex, and doing this even though it's day one of our fast.
Mm.
Now the true rest begins.
I'm very glad we did it. And looking forward to listening back to this actually.
Yeah.
And also looking forward to comparing it to the one after the fast.
Yeah. So stay tuned.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. You've been listening to another awesome conversation with the Soul Spiral podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe and share this with a friend that you feel might benefit. All of our socials and contact is in the show notes, including anything referenced today. Have a beautiful day spiraling with your soul.